The 7 best ADV bikes, huh? Well, believe it or not, that's a topic that is both hard to cover because of the different styles of bikes in the category and highly depressing because no one but me cares. However, I can say that those of you who are in fact watching this video right now, you are truly enlightened. The big brain boys, you've ridden for several years and reached the realization that all riders eventually arrive at, that riding on the street is kind of overrated. Now you face a crossroads. The path to the left leads to the Church of Rossi, a place where lap times are paramount and fast boys ride in closely controlled environments. They're motivated by a desire to be the very best, like no one ever was, and they're aided in their quest by reckless financial abandon. The path on the right leads to open prairies and mountain passes joined by nothing more than a dirt trail. Those who go down this path need a steed as brave as they are and sturdy enough to withstand jumps and rocks and many, many dirt naps. If you're one of those types of riders, I've collected that 7 best adventure bikes video you've been waiting for, and you should just buy it for all different kinds of riders. That, or you're just watching this video on the John at work and need 10 minutes of peace and quiet, in which case, welcome. Hopefully you learned something and I can entertain you. Let's dive straight in with our big bike offerings, and we're going to start off with the new kid on the block, the Harley Davidson Dirt Glide. That's right, the Pan America is the bravest thing a company has done since Apple decided to get rid of the headphone jack in order of incredibly expensive and easy to lose AirPods. However, unlike AirPods, the Pan Am is actually pretty sweet. I've picked this bike instead of the BMW GS because nobody really cares about the GS anymore. The Pan Am is in direct competition with its 1250cc liquid-cooled Revolution Max V-twin because Harley Davidson needs to brand everything that puts down a stonking 150 horse and 94 foot-pounds of torques. This is the most powerful production engine HD has put in a bike yet, and it bodes well for the future where Harley's horsepower numbers are bigger than their torque numbers like a normal manufacturer. The bike has everything you'd want out of a flagship adventure tourer with a TFT dash as big as its windscreen, adjustability, and an optional wire spoke wheels in case you're a maniac who wants to take it up a mountain single track. They've also packed in a world-first adaptive ride height device which lowers the bike at a stop so short people can flat-foot it and not compromise ground clearance or handling. I'm sure it's really strange to have your motorcycle drop an inch or two automatically, but it's a nice way to make it more approachable to those who might not fit on some other big ADVs. Admittedly, the Pan Am is an acquired taste, but the more I see it, the more I like it. Look at it, it's a dirt glide. That's pretty sweet. If you want the base model, you can get it for a little off of 17 grand. The Pan Am Special clocks in with a bunch of Dirt Boy editions for $19,999. We'll have to see how it does, but I'm quietly rooting for this bike to succeed. The other flagship motorcycle I want to cover is the Ducati Multistrada V4, the final form of Ducati riders when they realize that riding around on a Panigale for the street is not as much fun as it looks. Shade Tree, when are you gonna upgrade, bro? Get yourself the Multi V4, my dude. Elevate your game. Ducati claims that this is the bike of off-road capability, but considering it's the size of a Goldwing with the bags on the back, you'd need to have some serious testicular fortitude or just be plain foolhardy to take it down anything more gnarly than a gravel driveway. Also, I mean, it's a Ducati, so could you imagine the repair bill if you dump it off-road? Anyway, the Multis pack in the 1158cc V4 pumping out 170 ponies and 92 foot-pounds of Torgarinos. As a side note, Harley getting within 20 horsepower of the Multi on their first at bat is pretty admirable. In typical Ducati fashion, you've got everything in the kitchen sink bolted onto this bike. A Skynet supercomputer monitoring everything on the bike? Check. A bunch of rider comfort features that are aftermarket add-ons for lesser machines? Check. Adaptive cruise control so you can let the bike ride itself while you play Flappy Bird? Check. They've also got a spreadsheet with all the different models and prices so you know exactly how poor you'll be after you purchase one. Seriously, there are 6 different models if you consider different paint scheme models. The base model comes in at $19,995, the S Travel with cast wheels for $24 grand and $24,295 based on color. The S Travel, its spoked wheels for a few hundred buckaroos more than the King Dick S Sport for $26 grand. But then again, It's a multi, so if you really had to ask, you couldn't afford it in the first place. The Multistrada is really aimed for riders who want to travel across the country in comfort and style, but don't care about riding off-road, really. Personally, I wish they'd drop any pretense of off-road riding and just made a better sport tour, but what do I know? I'm just a guy who's thrashed a Scrambler off-road for a few years. Now, if you're riding around on a flagship adventure bike touring around the country, you're going to want to have that $20,000 battleship covered with an insurance policy as robust as your bike. Progressive will have your baby covered stem to stern starting as low as $79 a year because let's face it, between a bike, dirt gear, and specially ordered state park stickers to slap on your panniers, you're probably a little tight on cash. Speaking of that dirt gear, Progressive covers up to $3,000 worth of gear and mods. You don't have to worry about paying for another custom Dakar jacket. Progressive covers you nationwide, so if you're a long way from home or you're a long way round from home, you don't have to worry about finding a tow if you get a flat or bend a rim. They've also got roadside assistance to rescue you in case you're running tubeless tires and you get a flat like a dummy. If you're planning on hitting the road, you owe it to yourself and your motorcycle to make sure you've got the best insurance backing you up. Click the link down below and get yourself a free quote to see how much you can save. Yes, Progressive Motorcycle Insurance actually sponsors Yammie Noob. Let that sink in. Think about where we started from. Yeah, it's pretty good. The next few bikes are going to be quote-unquote normal ADV bikes. Those are the ones that are actually attainable for most people, actually ridden off-road and pretty darn good at it too. We'll start with the crowd favorite, the Honda Africa Twin. Built as an homage to the old Paris Dakar race bikes, the Africa Twin is a beefed-up bike that puts the adventure in adventure touring. Massive travel in the suspension, 2118 wheels with spoked rims from the factory, bash guards, and a skid plate as standard, like it should be, and a commanding riding stance, perfect for standing up or just chilling out and letting the miles roll by. The Africa Twin is packing Honda's 1084cc parallel twin, putting down 101 horse and 77 foot-pounds of Torgeronimos, which is plenty to throw massive roosts or pull you up the hill. The bike's also packing some serious tech. It's got advanced on-off-road traction control, rider modes, wheelie control, toggleable ABS. Toggleable? Is that a word? Toggleable? And the Sport ES package also includes electronically adjustable suspension. To be perfectly honest, I think electronic suspension is silly on a motorcycle that's meant to be beat up off-road. It just seems like one more fragile thing to break, but if you've got it, you might as well use it. It's all controlled on a massive TFT dash, but for some reason they decided to include a very rudimentary LCD display. I guess you can say how far we've come in all that time you're riding, and also if you're into touring more than off-road riding, they make an Africa Twin with an optional dual clutch transmission so you can cruise without having to worry about the clutch. The only downside is that the Honda gave the bike angry anime eye looking headlights, so prepare to get poked fun of a little. You can get a base model Africa Twin for $14,399, which is not bad at all. Similarly, if you're feeling in a British sort of mood and you can get yourself a $15,000 ADV that doesn't look like an ADV, you can get the Triumph Scrambler XC. Don't get it confused with the XE, which is the street-oriented version. I'm not sure why they didn't give each one their own model name, but we're going to go ahead and call the XC Dirty McDirtface so no one gets confused. Dirty McDirtface is powered by the 1200 parallel twin from the big bodies and puts down 90 horse and 81 foot-pounds of Torgos. Now I know what you're thinking. Yam, you've told us 1,000 times that trying to hustle a Scrambler around a dirt trail sucks and is an exercise in pain and suffering, and you're a sadomasochist. Well, Triumph has put a lot of work into the Dirty McDirtface to help you out. It's got a 2118 setup as opposed to the 19 on the Desert Sled. It's got a specific off-road tune which makes the power more usable by your average Scrambler boy. Also, it's worth pointing out that the bikes we've talked about so far have the least amount of plastic fairings surrounding you, so that when the trail gets particularly nasty, you can actually see the rocks around your front tire. You've also got the same level of adjustability as the Africa Twin, same ground clearance, same levels of adjustability in the suspension, Öhlins in the back for some reason, and it'll cost you $1,000 more at $15,400. If you wanted to reach peak hipster, Dirty McDirtface can also be outfitted with the surfboard rack, so you can ride right up to that SoCal surf spot and get that sweet selfie for the gram. Number 5 today is probably going to go to our last mid-priced ADV, and it's the one that you're probably actually going to see off-road in this price bracket. It's the KTM 890 Adventure R. Yes, there's a 790 Adventure that's a bit cheaper, but come on, you're not seriously going to get the cheaper KTM, are you? You chose the ADV life. It's not for the penny pinching and financially frugal. You're gonna ride high on your Austrian steed, bragging about how much pedigree and heritage it has off-road and how it's the best in the category, and you're gonna get the Rottweiler intake and go on a podcast and never shut up about it, and then proceed to dump it on the first obstacle and get mad at the ground for having the audacity to hit your motorcycle. I'm sorry, Spurgeon, I had to do you dirty like that. The KTM has an 889cc parallel twin, putting down 105 horsepower and 74 foot-pounds of torques, with, you guessed it, all the same technology as the others. Rider modes, traction control, wheelie control, and all the goodies. So what makes this one so cool, Yam? Well, it's got lowered fuel pods that double as crash bars, making the bike's center of gravity lower, thus making the bike easier to ride slowly, which is something you're going to be doing on a big old bike if you're taking it down some serious trails, and it's got a seriously robust aftermarket. If KTM people do one thing, it's spend a lot of money on mods, and boy howdy does this thing have you covered. You've got orange tunes, orange airbox mods, orange evap pair deletes, orange fairings, orange exhausts, orange crash protection, orange anything and everything you'd want to do to this bike. And this might be anecdotal, but KTMs generally have a really fun character about them. Every KTM I've ridden are playful and competent at the same time. You can pick yourself up an 890 Adventure R for $14,199 and start simping for your brand harder than any other. Seriously though, KTM owners, we've all got a problem. Never ask us about our bikes. You know me and Spite, we love our KTMs. Let's keep it moving. Number 6, and the first motorcycle on the list for under $10,000, though just barely, is the Yamaha Tenere 700. Ryan F9 made a video one time saying he wanted a T7 instead of a BMW, so that's all you need to know, right? It's absolutely perfect, and you need not consider anything else. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's still pretty dang good. I made a 20-minute first ride and impressions video where I tested it on and off-road, and I gotta say, I'm a big fan. The seat's a little uncomfortable and it gets a little hot, but I'm a big fan. Should it have cruise control? Probably. I digress. Don't get me wrong, it's lacking some of the crazy technology other bikes on this list, but do you really need all of it? Nah, I don't think so. Also, it's putting down 72 horsepower and 50 foot-pounds of torquerinos, but for the average rider, it's still way more than you need to have fun in the dirt. You can kick up roosts literally anywhere and it loves the slide. It's a super fun bike. But the best part about the T7 is that it's got the same presence and capabilities of bikes that are between $5,000 and $10,000 more expensive, but it doesn't feel like it was bolted down together with whatever was left over at the factory. It is not a dirt MT-07. It is its own bike with a new frame, new suspension, new everything, and a new geometry. It rides totally different, regardless of what Jake the Garden Snake might say. Sorry, Jake. You might clock a few parts taken out right of the generic Yamaha parts bucket, but what you see is a sort of thing on the R1 too, and everyone loves that bike. What the bike isn't is a big WR250. I've seen that floating around, and it's still a chonky boy. Don't expect to chuck down some gnarly single track the first time you ride it and just glide over it like you don't even have to try. You do have to try to ride this bike. At $9,999, T7s have been flying off the showroom floor ever since they came out, so if you're in the market, good luck getting one, but if you do, you're in for a good time. Just make sure you replace that seat first thing. It's really bad. Wrapping things up is the bike for someone who's really looking to ride their ADV bike mostly off-road and begrudgingly rides it on the street to get to the next trail, the CRF 300L Rally. The Rally is basically a beefed up version of Honda's humble dual sport with a tall windscreen, some extra plastic, and a bigger gas tank. But it's about the combination of ingredients here that makes this bike special. It's also the slow dog, putting down only 28 horsepower and 19 foot-pounds of tongos, but the lightest and cheapest bike on this list is right here. If you're thinking about tackling some serious long way around type of stuff, this is the bike you'd want to do it on. Just don't expect it to get you to your destination quickly or to have amazing passing power. The suspension isn't adjustable. The dash was high-tech 20 years ago, and it looks a little dorky, but it's a dependable little mule that'll putter down trails that none of the other bikes on this list would want to handle. This bike is only for the true adventure rider though, one who wants to climb mountains and camp in the middle of nowhere because on the road it's miserable to ride. Yeah, it's got fairings and stuff, but it's a 286cc single that doesn't make a lot of horsepower. It'll rattle your fillings loose after 100 miles and it won't get you there quick. But if you're thinking about getting a dual sport and doing some crazy adventure build, for just $5,999, you could basically just be done. What would be nice is if Honda put a little bit more potent engine in the next bike, something in the 400-ish cc range, so it doesn't feel like it's gasping for air on longer stretches of highway, but otherwise, this is the best out-of-the-box, lightweight ADV bike you'll find at a dealership today. Fact: according to the Oxford English Dictionary, publicly is the most commonly misspelled word in the English language. Goodbye.
Wow, look how pretty this is. You know what else is pretty? My beautiful face and this next Yammie Noob video. Click it right over here and check it out for yourself. There's fun memes in it, maybe Hayabusas, maybe some cool stuff. There's only one way to find out. Click that video. Do it now.